Good morning. John Gilkison, Aero Stealth here. I wanted to shoot a video that I talked about the other day on the Fully Charged Live presentation. But we're going to go a little off track here because really my objections to some of the presentations at Fully Charged Live are just general in nature. I'm on board with the message, but the methodology is another story. So I wrote a blog on it to help organize my thoughts. And this is the blog right here, which I'm going to publish it on my Facebook page, but I haven't done so yet. I will today. The title is Dumbed Down Presentations, the Other Intellectual Dead End. One of my conclusions, I've been grappling with this subject for quite a while, but because people accuse me of getting down in the weeds, so to speak, being too technical, and I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm saying we need people to do this because we can be led askew by generalizations that aren't factually based. So, in the talk, let me show it to you right here. There was a talk on right up here. This is a table I set up on the Ford Lightning pickup truck versus the Chevrolet Bolt. And there was a talk on the need to drive smaller vehicles and to, the need to drive smaller vehicles and to avoid bigger battery packs and so forth. But good luck with that. Good luck with getting the American public to ditch their larger vehicles and drive solos and so forth. It's not that some people won't buy these things, but it's been a process in the making. The American obsession with larger vehicles has been a process in the making for 40 some years. And you're not going to turn that around overnight with electric vehicles or not. But the major point I wanted to make was that you're going down the wrong road here because they're ignoring aerodynamics. They use the word, but they seem to equate smaller vehicles with less drag. And while it's true that a larger vehicle has more drag because it has more frontal area, it's not true that it necessarily needs to have more drag than a smaller vehicle. For example, the Chevy Bolt. The woman leading this talk was Nikki Gordon Bloomfield. I call her NGB for short. And she used to own a Chevy Bolt. And then she went ahead and sold that Bolt on and bought herself a Ford pickup truck because she wanted to be able to power her domicile in a power outage. And she needed to haul a lot of gear for these events, camera gear and so forth. So I sent her a message and I told her she could have the same aerodynamic drag as the Chevy Bolt had. Same road load. In other words, technically the Ford pickup truck could be as efficient as the Chevy Bolt, as long as you didn't change the shape of the Chevy Bolt. So here's what I sent her, and I'm going to read it to you. Basically, I said that the Chevy Bolt had 25.7 square feet of frontal area, had a coefficient of drag of 0.308, which gave it a coefficient of drag area of 7.91. and it got 112 miles per gallon. While the Lightning has 36 square feet of frontal area, a 0.35 drag coefficient, 12.6 CDA, and averages about 62 miles per gallon on the highway. And it weighs 2.5 tons versus the 1.78 tons of the Chevy Bolt. So what I told her was, if you could lower the coefficient of drag area of the Lightning down to 7.9, it could roughly have the same efficiency on the highway as the Chevy Bolt. And so this is one of the big misunderstandings, I think, about aerodynamics. And that's why I'm talking about when you go off, you can let your generalizations lead you astray because it's not factually based. And so here's the big diagram here that shows what we're talking about. Getting the shadow off of this thing. What you have is just a pictorial representation. You have a cube up at the top that's 1 square feet of frontal area. And then you have a golf ball like shape, and it's got 1.65 foot of diameter. And this has the same aerodynamic drag as this 1 foot square cube. So as the shape gets larger, you come down to this shape, which is more bullet shaped. It has a cross-sectional area, frontal area of 3.65 feet, and it has the same aerodynamic drag as the 1 foot cube. The weight, you can go even deeper into the weeds here. This shape right here has a 5.17 foot of diameter, and it has the same aerodynamic drag as the golf ball, as the 1 foot cube. And I'll set my paper aside here, but and this is an important point I need to make here. Phil, when he drew this, didn't put in the actual frontal area in square feet. We know that the cube is 1 square foot, but the golf ball actually has 1.29 square feet of frontal area. And this shape here with 3.65 feet of diameter actually has 2.86 square feet of frontal area. And this shape here has 4.06. So you see I've done the math here. Right here on this paper. So this is an important point. All these shapes have the same drag. And as you can see, this one's vastly bigger and has more frontal area than this one. So I like to laugh about this one being a Hummer. But anyway, this is the road load diagram for a Chevy Bolt. I want you to remember the shape of this generally, because I'm going to show you another one. And so mentally you need to be able to compare it. The blue line you see down below represents rolling resistance, and all the rest up above it in the red is aerodynamic drag. So you can see you get to a 50% point roughly around 50 miles an hour right in here. In other words, aerodynamic drag and rolling resistance are about half and half. And once you get above this, then aerodynamic drag begins to predominate right here, like so. So now that's a Chevy Bolt. Okay, remember that shape. This, see if we can't get it all in here, is basically a 0.35 shape, drag coefficient shape that represents a Ford pickup truck right here. So you can see how much taller this is, which represents energy to do a certain speed. And right beside it, just for grins, we have to the right of it, the really tall one is a Ford Model T. So you can see that aerodynamics is of critical importance in modern vehicles and could be going forward. So this is what I wanted to get at. The leaving the Chevy Bolt the way it is with its drag coefficient of 0.308, you would need to get down to 0.219 drag coefficient for the Ford pickup truck. And the way to prove that is to match the coefficient of drag area. And this is what I talked to Nikki about. What you do, you know the drag coefficient area that you want, and you don't know the CD. So you divide by the square footage of the frontal area and you come up with it. Because that's the relationship. Coefficient of drag times the frontal area in square feet is the coefficient of drag area. And once you have the coefficient of drag area and they match, then you basically have the same road load. And now there's several ways to do this, but one would be quite extensive modifications, adding appliances to get the shape to the rear. It's mostly all to the rear. However, I pointed out to her, because she mentioned that she could get a roof rack that would go on the bed of the truck. She has a tonneau cover, and then there's racks that you can install over it. She could put cargo carriers on over the bed of the truck. Now I told her to get 2 of them, close to the length of the bed of the truck as she could get, and put them side by side, but install them backwards so the large end was near the what most people think is the back end. Put it forward so it's near the cab, and then the tapered ends towards the rear of the truck. And I told her this was stuffing the wake, so she could carry cargo back there and literally not incur an aerodynamic drag penalty at all, but lower the drag coefficient of the truck. So that would stuff that wake behind the cab. And the other thing you could do is just simply buy a trailer shell and construct a trailer that was no taller than the bed of the truck, okay, and will begin to taper down in the back. And it could have more or less straight sides like a teardrop trailer, but it would allow you to carry more stuff back there. And most people think of towing a trailer as an increase in a reduction in mpges and an increase in drag. But in this instance, because it would help the air coming off the truck reform on the trailer and continue to come together behind the truck and stuff that wake. There's a wake area behind the bed of the truck also. You literally could get, you can improve the, lower the coefficient of drag of the whole truck trailer combination. Now, I'm not saying that these 2 items would get you down to 0.219. What I am saying is it would reduce the drag in the direction of the good, and it would be an interesting experiment to see how you came out. You'd have to pay attention to the wheels on the trailer, make sure they were in the body of the trailer, not hanging outside of it, and that the trailer was no wider than the truck. So it's an interesting problem, and the manufacturers, especially the trailer manufacturers, are not helping us with this problem at all, because they come from a mindset where you should just build a trailer strictly on the basis of utility to the user, and fossil fuels have so much energy density, you just don't care if you reduce the mpgs of the truck. when they're towing your trailer. I mean, people care a little, but they don't care very much, and they're willing to take the haircut. So uh, there you have it. I'm going to let you go because getting over 15 minutes here. But my major point that I was trying to make was that when you dumb down your talks, you end up dumbing down yourself because you begin to think in dumbed down terms. And your audience does show up to learn something. And sometimes these talks seem a little canned. They just repeat themselves over and over again. I've been watching Fully Charged Live for years, and some of their messages are just remain the same. And they don't get into the weeds. And you need to bring your audience up a little bit when you're talking. I'm not saying dive into technical weeds so deep that no one can follow, but you need to dive in enough that you can educate your audience. And for goodness sakes, don't end up dumbing down your presentations so much that you end up dumbing down yourself. It's an intellectual dead end. Talk to you later, everybody. Bye bye.